Hi class, this is Mr. T, or Mr. Tan, you can call me either. And now we are in management operations and we are focusing on which question? P2. And P2 says examine examples of how the role of a leader and a function of a manager apply in different situational contexts. So what do we need to do with the question?
Break it down.
We need to break it down. What's the first thing we do when breaking the question down?
Identify the key word.
Good. Identify the key word or words. The key word here is examine. What does examine mean?
Research, analyze.
Yes, research, analyze, in a little bit more detail, these points. So we're talking about different theories, really, and there are many different theories, but we're going to be focusing on really chaos theory and a scientific approach, and how the role of a manager is used in a scientific way in a specific situation using the case study. So what case study are we talking about? Tesco's. So we know about Tesco's and you've researched Tesco's. So we're going to take two different situations. So let's take, for example, the situation of Tesco's being the first company to set up and direct and implement their online food. So Tesco's was the first online retailer for food to implement this, ahead of everyone else, ahead of Sainsbury's, ahead of Asda, ahead of everyone else. So what's the first thing we should do in terms of answering the question, do you think?
Do research over this.
Maybe we need to just go over firstly what the role of a, I know we've done it in P1, but what the role of a manager is, the function of a manager and the role of a leader first. So just to recap, so I would just go back over this briefly, not going into a great detail, and I would say, what is the function of a manager? Planning, organising, controlling and directing. So we can see that when we're looking at the manager, we're saying to ourselves, how does planning, organisation, controlling and directing, influence it in terms of tailored scientific approach? So the first thing I would do is start answering the question in terms of the function of a manager. And then you would go into a little bit more detail and you would say the role of a manager, as we looked at in the previous question, includes planning, it includes organisation, directing and controlling. So we know that. But then if we're taking a specific theory, like a scientific approach, we have to now explain what that scientific approach is, before we go in and answer the question. So if we take, there are many different scientific approaches, and within that scientific approaches, you have many different management systems, like TQM. TQM stands for Total Quality Management. And what this is about focusing on analyzes the input, analyzes all parts of the transformation process, and analysing the output. And the purpose of this is to do what?
Business objectives.
Yes, to business objectives in terms of what? Ultimately, what's your business objective? To make more profit for the company. Because if you're not making more profit for the company, or increasing your market share, or being efficient and effective, reducing waste, and being efficient to make more profit, then really we said that you're not going to be in a business for the long term. So this scientific approach using TQM is extremely important. Now, when we look at scientific approach is about the most efficient way to perform the task is determined that everyone does it in that way. So no one goes off and does it their own way. It's to analyse the task and analyse the process that it goes through with data so that you can quantify and qualify the data and give you facts and statistics. After you've looked at the whole process, then you need to say to yourself, what about personal selection? Who should be in that role? Who is the best qualified in order to do that task? Because having the right people in the right place at the right time to do that task is extremely important. And then within that organisational structure. So, let's take, we said, the process of implementing scientific approach to Tesco's selling their online foods to the customer. So, the first thing they would have done, let's assume that they've already set up their website, and let's assume everything is up and running and they've advertised it. So, what happens first? You're sitting at home and what happens? You are the consumer and you do what? You go online and you start looking at Tesco's food and you do what? Order your food and then you place an order, yes? And you pay for it online. Okay, what happens next? Let's go through the process. Yeah, so what happens next? Where does that order go?
The warehouse probably, where it's going to get prepared for you, then the logistics are getting into place.
Okay, let's break this down, but hang on a minute, who actually delivers the food? And how does the food get collected? Each store. Do you not see members of staff actually going round with their trolleys picking food? They're actually picking food to be delivered for people who have ordered it online. So these orders now that have come into a central place, what must happen to these orders?
They must be distributed.
Good. The first thing is that these orders must be distributed to, according to the postcode, to the appropriate store that's going to be delivering those goods to that customer. So the first thing is that the organisation of the appropriate order must be sent to the right store. What's the next thing I'm assuming, I haven't worked in Tesco's, I'm assuming what happens. What's the next thing do you think, assume must happen in that store?
The employee does the shopping.
No, before that. Come on. The order comes in where? To a central place, yes? And someone now in the internet orders must organise all the orders, yes? Because some orders must be delivered on certain days. So now you get all the orders in on that store, and now you're working out what orders need to be delivered on what day and at what time. Yes, switch it off. Okay. So here now it comes into one location there, and then you're redistributing out the right days. And then you're saying to yourself, have you got enough drivers to the resources to allocate and to deliver on those certain days of the week? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. And at different times. Okay? Then what happens then? You've got your order and now it's a Monday. What happens then? The order gets given to a team of people, yes? A team of people who's related to picking the goods, and it gives it to X number of people. They pick the goods at a certain time, and the goods are ready for a certain time, and then what happens then? Then it's packed, then it's probably checked, and then it's given to the driver and put in an organisation. So, but this is Taylor's scientific approach. Taylor's scientific approach is saying, let's analyse all the tasks. Let's analyse all the tasks. Every single task. Stage 1, 2, 3, 4. And you analyse. And then you say to yourself, hang on a minute, is this the best way to do it? Then you start analysing it. And as you go on, you've done it for the first time, you fine. But then, haven't we all not been there where we've then said, oh, we can do this better, we can do this differently. Well, why don't we do this? Then this does this. Or why don't we do this? In fact, we know this now. We need X number of people on this day. Or our busiest times are this day. Do you understand? So now, because we're learning, and the learning curve is going like up, we're now learning and using that experience. So because we're learning, we're now looking at analysing the task. We all do it in our daily lives. We all do things, and we all improve upon doing things, or you should. Okay, so once we've got the task analysed, and here's Taylor's scientific approach. So if we relate it back to the manager's role is, the manager's function is to what? To plan.
Organise, direct, control.
Organise, direct and control. So now the manager is a conceptual person in Taylor's scientific approach, because the manager's role is being used in the task analysis. The manager's role is being used in the personnel selection. The manager will choose the right people for the right task. The manager would choose the people who can deal with the data coming in and who has good organisational skills to organise these things, because not everyone can. The manager would choose a team of people to go and pick the goods. The manager will know which people will be the drivers. The manager will know, you can't just put anyone anywhere to do anything. You have to have the right people to do the right things, otherwise you'll get chaos.
The wrong results.
Yes, you get the wrong results. Does that make sense? So, when we are looking at this question in terms of the manager, you have to actually say, well, you have to explain again what the role of the manager is. And then you have to explain what the scientific approach is. And the Taylor's scientific approach is saying, let's look at the task. Let's analyze the task. And then look at the process, stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then let's look how we can improve that. And then let's look, getting the right people on board. Then let's look, analyze them. But we can see that the manager's function in terms of planning, organisation, directing and controlling is absolutely crucial to Taylor's scientific approach. Otherwise you're not going to get the right results in relation to, if we use the specific example, because the question said using by example from the case study, which is Tesco's, delivering orders to their customers. Okay? How do Ocado deliver their food? How does the order come into Ocado?
It gets distributed by some other retailers.
Ocado, they have a central distribution system and different central distribution systems. And they don't have people packing. It's all automated. If you see the video on Ocado,